In this video, we're going to show you how to install the perfect Tobermore driveway, and we're going to take you through the various processes step by step. Before starting your driveway installation, it's also important to check any underground services: oil, gas, water and electric. You will need the following tools, equipment and PPE: shovel, string line, pins, screeding rails and bar, plate compactor with rubber protective mats, cement mixer, spirit level, soft brush, block splitter, mini digger, high-vis vest, safety boots, dust mask, gloves, ear protection, safety glasses. Some other materials you may need. In this situation, we're using an MOT Type 1, or what you would know as 40mm to dust or blinded, sharp sand for the laying course, kiln dry sand for jointing the blocks, sand and cement for concreting the curbs. You may also require drainage channels and recessed manhole covers. All these materials can be purchased from your local builders merchants. The first stage is to excavate the area to the required depth. To calculate the depth of the excavation required, add the depth of the block paver, 30mm thickness of sharp sand and laying course, and the depth of your sub base. A typical driveway will require a sub base of between 125mm and 150mm depending on your ground conditions. If the ground is soft, you will require a greater depth of sub base. Always ensure the finished level of the driveway is at least 150mm below the damp proof course of the house. When installing a driveway, it's so important to maintain the integrity of the driveway in itself, and we do this by using edge restraints. In this case, the edge restraints are a Tobermore Tegler curb large. To ensure the alignment and the finish level, we're using a string line. It's so important that your curbs are installed correctly. In this case, we're using a 6:1 mix, 6 sharp, 1 cement as a semi-dry. That semi-dry is going to ensure that your blocks don't tilt one way or another way, and when you tap them down, they stay in place. We've got our mortar on our curb brace now, and we've got to make sure that when we're tapping down sufficiently enough to ensure that there's a good bed underneath. Try and hold your curb in position like so, tapping it down with your mallet, but always make sure and ensure that you use a bolt level, because your bolt level is going to make sure that the top of your curb is touching your line. And you need to get down and have a look and see what you're doing. Well, here we are. We've laid our curbs, they're in place, but now we want the curbs to stay in position. And we do that by putting a concrete mix on the back of the curbs, haunching it off, smoothing it off, ensuring you don't get any sideways movement. Now we can install the sub-base layer. For a 150mm depth of sub-base, you should install 2 75mm layers. Spread the first layer of aggregate and rake it level. Compact it fully using a vibrating plate compactor. It is important to lay your paving with a slight fall. This means laying it to a very slight slope to allow surface water to run off the surface to drainage gullies, channels or soft landscaping. For block paving on a driveway, this is usually a minimal fall of 1 in 60. This means 1 centimetre of fall for every 60 centimetres of distance. This means if your driveway is 5 metres long, you should convert this to mm, 5,000 millimetres, and divide by 60, which means the driveway will fall 85 millimetres approximately over its length. This fall should be created in the sub-base, not the laying course. To create the fall in the subbase, place a string line on the finished level of the driveway at the highest point and run it to a stake at the lower end of the driveway. Use a string line spirit level to check its level. At the low end of the driveway, measure down the string line 80mm. Place a wooden peg at this level. This now indicates where the subbase material needs to be brought up to. You can do these in various locations on the driveway to guide you. So here we are, we've got a subbase in place, it's compacted, and now it's time to put in our bedding course. For this, we're going to be using a sharp sand, and it's so important that your sharp sand has enough moisture content, and the best way to test that to see if it forms a bore. So what Dave's doing here now, he's setting in the screed rails. The screed rails he's using in this case is a 30mm rail. What that 30mm rail will do to ensure that he uses the correct depth of sand that is required for the bedding course. So as you can see, Dave's got the rails firmly in place. He's packing the sand either side of the rail to ensure that we don't get any movement. But what we need to do now, we need to use a string line from A to B, and to ensure that we haven't got any sagging in the rails throughout the distance. So what we're doing now, Dave is ensuring that the rail is to the correct height with the string line. So what Dave has done now, he's set up the second line from threshold to threshold. He's got the screed rail underneath that line, and he's checking that we have the correct depth. Right, okay, so what we have here now, you can see the laying course slowly coming to life. We've got the two screeding rails either side running parallel, and Dave is using a screeding bar and floating as he goes to achieve the required level. And as you can see, he's pulling the screeding bar over the screeding rails as he goes, and it's leaving a perfectly smooth finish. So what we're doing now, we're pulling the screed rail back and it's creating a void. So we put the extra sand in to ensure that there's no voids in our laying course. And what we're doing in this case, we're using a plastic float to ensure a good level. Filling the void as we go. Your Tobermore paving has now arrived, and it's essential at this point to check the batch code and to ensure that all your packs all match the same number. Now we've checked the batch codes, now we can remove the packaging. Tobermore now have made it really easy for you. They put QR codes on all their packaging. Now you're able to scan the QR code, which will take you to their website, where you'll be able to see full installation guides and how-to videos just like this one. It's so important to check the invoice matches up with the products that you've had delivered to site. On this driveway installation, we're using the Artro paving. We have a bracken infill and we have a contrasting carbon border. This Artro paving is in a linear format, which is reminiscent of a European clay paver. So the laying pattern we have chosen for this driveway installation is a stretcher bond for the border and a herringbone pattern for the bracken. Artro paving is manufactured using the Tobermore prime top surface technology. This creates an incredibly strong and durable surface. By concentrating the pigments in the top 10 mil of the block, this will ensure long-lasting and vibrant colours. So this driveway, we're using the Artro paving, and we're using a herringbone pattern. In this case, we're laying it at a 90 degree. We start our paving off with our first block next to our border, and then our next Artro paving at a 90 degree, and repeat the pattern as you go. These Artro blocks have spacer nibs which automatically sets your joint perfectly for this installation. When we're installing these blocks, it's so important that you go down square from the top to the bottom to ensure good alignment. When installing concrete paving products, you must always thoroughly mix the products from a minimum of 3 packs simultaneously. This applies to both blended and solid colours. When products are supplied in packs with vertical slices, select the product simultaneously from a minimum of 3 packs. Always select the product diagonally and vertically, slice by slice, as this ensures colours, shades and textures are distributed evenly over the entire installation. During installation, it's so important to make regular visual checks to ensure good colour blending. It's so important that occasionally you need to check the alignment of your paving, and you can do this by using a string line. We finished our paving, and the only thing that's left to do now is our cuts. So let's measure our cut now. So we're using the guillotine to cut our blocks, and you can hire one of these from any hire centre. We don't want to be using small cuts like this. Firstly, they look unsightly, they become unstable, and they will come loose. What you need is a block of this size, which is at least a quarter of the size of the original block size. Well, the driveway is now complete. We finished the cuts. The only thing that's left to do now is to brush off any debris and brush in the kiln dry jointing sand. Before we brush in the kiln dried sand, it's essential that we use the correct PPE, dust mask and glasses. So now we've distributed the kiln dried sand over our paving, and what we have to do now is to brush our sand in at a 45-degree angle to ensure that the sand gets into all those joints. So now we've brushed all our kiln dried sand into our joints of our paving, it's time to compact it. And we can do that using a compactor plate, but it's essential with every driveway to use a rubber mat. This will avoid any scraping or scuffing on the surface of your paving. Well, there you are, the driveway is now completed. And this is without doubt a personal favourite of mine. It looks absolutely fantastic, and the guys here have done an absolute fantastic job installing this driveway.